Thursday, June 13th. This is the regular board meeting of the Sunshine Coast Regional District. And I'd like to welcome everyone for being here today and thank you for attending. I'd like to acknowledge that we are within the territory of the Sechelt First Nation. And we're going to start by adopting our agenda, please. As amended. There was an addition on number 4 under the Planning and Community Development Committee recommendation. There was one added from earlier today. So may I have a motion to adopt the agenda as amended? So moved and seconded. Any further additions, deletions, errors, omissions? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Motion carries. Okay, our minutes, our regular board meeting minutes of May 23rd, 2019. Those are in Annex A on pages 1 to 14 of your package. Are there any changes, additions, errors, omissions? Yes, Director McMahon.
Sorry, I failed to write down the page regarding the social procurement network. We were going to...
Oh, yes, that is correct. We needed to change the name of the social procurement hub because it's actually, Donna, you had Director McMahon, you had it's the community...
I believe it's the Coastal Communities Social Procurement Initiative. Is that?
Yes, and so that is... yes, it does roll right off the tongue. We preferred hub because it was easier to say, but it was in the CAS recommendations. What page was that?
That would be after these minutes.
Oh, that would be after these minutes. Sorry. So we're just looking at the minutes. We'll look at the CAS recommendations next. So that's why we're fumbling. Okay. So if I see no changes, may I have a motion to receive and adopt those minutes, please? So moved, seconded. Any changes? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion carries. So do we have any business arising from the minutes or unfinished business? Yes, Director Seegers.
Thank you. It has been, just to let the rest of the board know, the letter with regards to managing growth around the water supply was received at the District of Sechelt, so we'll be moving that forward there.
Thank you. Anything else? Any other minutes or business arising from the minutes or unfinished business? Seeing none, presentations and delegations. We have no formal presentations and delegations today, but I would like to recognize with last May being Active Transportation Month, and I had put out a challenge to all the other elected folk on the coast to do the Ferry to Ferry Challenge. And I think there is one director here sitting at the table that kicked everybody else's butt. And that would be Director McMahon. And so congratulations, Director McMahon. I will be getting you a 1-month pass to an SCRD 1-month pass. So I'll be getting that to you. But there was also another draw, or there's going to be a draw for any of the elected folk who did participate in the Active Transportation Month. And we had several, and I just followed up to make sure I had everybody. But I'm going to ask Director Seegers. Oh, yes. Yes, your name is in there. So I'm going to have Sherry.
The bottom ones aren't moving.
Oh, sorry. The bottom ones aren't moving. Well, this was the one cup I could find. So the papers aren't that small. Where is? Oh, yeah. Oh, it's right here. She's already grabbed one out.
Okay.
Alton Toth.
Okay, awesome.
Okay, so Alton Toth will also be receiving a 1-month pass. And thank you to all the elected officials who did participate. And I know Connie had asked me about that, and there's your update. So I just wanted to make sure we did it at the first board meeting after Active Transportation Month was done. So that can be officially done. Thank you, everyone, for participating in that. And also thank you, everyone, for participating in today, Dress Colorfully for Pride Day. Director McMahon and I put the challenge out to the directors as well as to staff to join us in dressing brightly for Pride Month and just to celebrate celebrate Pride, and because officially there's no in legislation, we don't do proclamations at the regional districts, and so we wanted to make sure that we were able to acknowledge and celebrate. So that's why we're a little on the colorful side today, and thank you to staff for participating as well. And it's been fun and bright so far all day. So thank you. Yeah, a little bit of sunglasses. Our boardroom's so bright, I got to wear shades. So. Okay, so moving on, I'm going to ask for a motion to receive the reports, and then we'll go through and do the recommendations. So moved, seconded, all those in favor? Motion carries. Okay, so the first on our list is the Corporate and Administrative Services Committee recommendations of May 23rd, except for the numbers 5, 6, and 10 that were previously adopted. And Director McMahon, I know you wanted to pull one of those out. Number 7, are there any other recommendations that anyone would like to have pulled out to discuss separately before we pass them all adopt them all as a block? Okay, so we'll pull out number 7, and so may I ask for a motion to adopt the CAS committee recommendations except for number 7? I'll ask for that motion. So moved, seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Motion carries. Okay, and Director McMahon to number 7, please.
Right. Minor amendment to the last sentence that says, and further that staff provide information and options related to becoming a member of the Community Benefit Hub, and that should instead say Coastal Communities Social Procurement Initiative.
Okay, so you'd like to make that, move that amendment and second it. Any further discussion on that? This is just, it's purely housekeeping. It is actually the name that Director McMahon just said that I no longer remember, but not the Hub. We called it the Hub originally. It was called the Hub when the AVICC started this committee, but it's now been renamed. So we just wanted to reflect that. So we have an amendment to that. It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor of the amendment? Okay. Those opposed? Okay. The amendment passes. And so now we'll go for the whole recommendation. May I ask for a mover to move this recommendation and second it, or pardon me, adopt it? Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion carries. Okay, so that takes care of CAS from May 23rd, and we'll now move on to number 4 on our agenda, which is page 21 of your package that should have been sitting in front of you when, or actually Sherry handed out as we all arrived. And that is recommendation number 2, the UBC resolutions around BC Ferry Services. We have 2 recommendations that we're going to be looking to bring forward to UBCM. So move adoption and seconded. Any further discussion on these recommendations? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. All right. Moving along, we have no communications. We have no motions. We have no bylaws, but we have directors' reports. And so today for director's reports, I'm going to start with Mr. Bling on the end, Mr. Hiltz. Director Hiltz, West Howe Sound, what's up in Area F?
What's up in Area F?
Microphone, please, sir.
Oh, sorry. There, the microphone is on. Last night at the West Howe Sound Community Association, there was a couple presentations from Ruth Simons of Future of Howe Sound and Society and the UNESCO Biosphere Initiative, and Fiona Beattie. And one of the term that I got out of that, it's called marine spatial planning. So the tool that they're attempting to build is to essentially apply planning tools to the marine environment. So that's kind of where it's kind of going, and the model is with the North Coast, Haida, and I can't remember what it's actually called, but there's a model of a land use plan in the North Coast, and the difficulty with the South Coast Howe Sound is because there's been more people here over the years, all the overlapping jurisdictions is an ongoing issue. It was a good presentation, and so I think I understand what they're trying to do now. So it's to provide a tool for marine spatial planning. I just want to touch something I didn't talk about last month, which was at the Fire Commission, and we had a presentation from the fire chief, former fire chief, and we were talking about backyard burning and how in Gibsons in the 60s, the way you got rid of your garbage is you had a burning barrel. And you, as long as you had a screen on the top, you could burn year-round. And so it was interesting just to see how backyard burning and waste disposal has moved to where we are, and that led into a food waste discussion last night. And so it's interesting just to see how we've moved in 50 years from burning our garbage to having a landfill that's just about filled up and still looking at managing our waste. So just a couple items. So.
Thank you, Director Hiltz. We'll go across the table and up to the northern end of the coast and up to Area A. And Director Lee, how are things in Pender Harbour and Egmont?
Really good, thanks. Gee, our last board meeting, May 23rd, a long time ago. I got a concern from one of my customers up there about moving trailers onto the coast, portable homes. And apparently the ferry's up the rate to where it's almost impractical to bring them on anymore. So something for me to look at. Seems like the wrong thing to do. We should be doing exactly the opposite, because that's affordable housing. We shouldn't be putting barriers up. So I'm going to have to look into that some more. But it concerned me quite a bit. Went to the 3 water dialogues, and I found they were really interesting. And what was most impressive was they're actually great crowds, and they're very respectful and thoughtful discussions. It was actually pleasant to attend and hear everybody. On June 6th, I went to attended a Living Heritage meeting on Pender Harbour Days. So just to let you guys know, there's going to be a Pender Harbour Days August 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. And we're listed as one of the sponsors because we did give them a grant to help with the advertising. And last thing, on June 21st, which is a Friday, at noon at the Madeira Park Legion, Tina and some fellow staff members are going to be making a presentation on the budget and also talk about water and wastewater, the extra charges, which really people consider as taxes, and going to have some comments on ocean and lake access signage, I hope. Is that right, Tina? Did I get all that? Anyways, you guys should come if you get a chance. That's why I was mentioning it. There's great lunch, and it's open to the public.
What was the date again?
It's June 21st, which is a Friday, and it'll be at noon at the Madeira Park Legion. And the public will be invited as well. So, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Lee. So we'll move, we're going to crisscross back across to Director Beamish and for an update on the town of Gibsons, please.
Things are very interesting in town of Gibsons these days, and I'll have more to say on that Tuesday night. Water dialogues, I attended 2 of the 3 water dialogues. I really appreciate one held in Gibsons, very well attended, and it was good to interact with the community, and I think there was very positive vibe came from those. People really appreciated the fact that they were having an opportunity to have input and to ask questions and to learn more about what's going on. I did suggest that maybe we should think about doing something in the fall on transportation. That's become a fairly topical issue, and have a dialogue on both ends of the coast around transportation. What do people want? We know what we want, but what do people want? So that'd be interesting to do. I attended 2 student-led events. One was the Green New Deal at Elfie Library, and the other one was the town hall on the environment at Elfie Library, both on different occasions, both very well attended, and the students did a great job getting the issues out there and organizing them. I really appreciate that, and good to see that they are becoming active. Along with the chair and Director Seegers, I attended the iced tea meeting in Courtenay, which was immediately followed by 3 hours of fundraising for the Canadian Cancer Society with I wouldn't say necessarily at gunpoint, but certainly it was very close, and we all did well. It was just a challenging 3 hours, and it's not just the 3 hours you spent. It's I'm still trying to collect money for all the people who promised money, sort of thing. So I have an appointment with the RCMP to either spend more time with them or pay up on Monday. I'm not sure which. The Urban Interface Fire Workshop in Sechelt, another excellent opportunity, and I take away from that lots of questions about the impacts of that on Gibsons, and especially vis-a-vis our initiative to also want to do a tree bylaw on private land, so that'll be interesting. Coming up tomorrow, we have a business walk with the Chamber of Commerce, where members of council and members of the Chamber will be going door to door to businesses in the town. It was done in 2013. We're revising the same questions to actually find out, so we have something comparable, but asking some additional questions, such as what would be the impacts of if we were to ban single-use plastic bags on their business, and getting some sense from them. And then Saturday there's a cadet review, and on Saturday also there's a 40-year anniversary for Eastlink, which we'll be attending. So it's a busy time right now. It seems that this time of year everybody's trying to get these events in while people are around the coast, and then I'm hoping that July and August will be considerably slower and less interesting. So thank you.
Thank you, Director Beamish. And we're going to go over to our newest face around the table. And I was remiss earlier in not introducing Director Paul from the Sechelt Nation. We're very pleased to have you here. And this is your first official appearance here. So thank you for being with us today. And if you could just give us an update on what you've been doing around the council table and within your community, that'd be awesome.
Great, thank you. Hi, I'm Alvina Paul, Council for the Sechelt Nation, Director Rep for the SCRD, and we've been going through a lot of impacts of bringing referendums through. We've just held two. Our first one last month we've had our Constitution Amendment, so that's going to the Cabinet right now in the Feds, and that'll be back within another month or so of approval. And last Saturday, we had the Lehigh referendum, and that passed. They both passed, so we're happy with those. Next weekend, the 21st, 22nd, 23rd, it's Aboriginal Day, so we're having a festival all weekend. So everyone's more than welcome to attend. It's for the entire public of the Sunshine Coast. We have events all day, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. I think it's on our website. If not, I will send it to you. And I know I'd promised Director Seegers about this already, so now I have to live up to this and get it out there for real. Last Thursday, I attended the Women Deliver Conference. And about a year and a half ago, I was actually invited to participate in the planning committee for that. Unfortunately, my schedule didn't allow it, so I had to step back, but I fortunately was able to attend one of the 4 days of that conference, and it was absolutely amazing. Empowering, inspiring, all of the above. So it was a great day, and and I escaped the the fiascos of last Friday's events. So I was fortunate enough that, yeah, nobody thought that I was worth putting in there, but but yeah, thank you, and that concludes my report.
Thank you. And I will say, just to tag on to the Women Deliver Conference, we actually have 4 out of the 9 positions are now women that are held at the regional district table. So I think that's a banner moment for our community. So we're almost at parity. But this is the closest I think we've ever been in the history of our organization. So that's pretty cool. And well, if we count Sherry, then we are at parity right now. So this is great. Yeah. Moving across, we'll go over to Director Lamb and to give us an update on the District of Sechelt, please.
Okay, District of Sechelt. Well, I attended the water information meetings. I just on the Tuesday, I guess the Tuesday in Sechelt, and once again it was well attended. The information from the regional district was very good. The staff did a great presentation, and I think it was well received, and people were very respectful. I attended Oceans Day on Saturday, and Friday wasn't the only day they arrest people in Sechelt. So So one of the other things I did, we've had a few days off, and I went down to Puerto Vallarta, and they had, anyways, we got in there, and they had a 101st anniversary of Puerto Vallarta, and so every day they had an event going on, and when we flew in on Saturday, Sunday, it was all about health, and they had doctors and dentists and everybody at this big fair. So, and it was open to the public to go and, get information or whatever. So it was, just open to anybody and everybody. But they're definitely becoming more aware of, their personal hygienes, I guess, and different ways of doing things. And all week long they had different events going on. And then the one of the grand finales was they had an open air music festival, and there was probably 10 to 15,000 people out just in an open area situation, just dancing, and we were as welcome there as anybody. Just it was lots of fun. And then one other thing I'd like to sort of put to staff is that I'd like to see the Field Road transit extended, see if we can extend it up to the airport. The District of Sechelt has received a $1 million grant to upgrade the airport and to extend the runway, and hopefully within a couple of years we'll have scheduled flights coming to the coast. So if we could tie that in, or get a bus road up there, that would just another little thing that would help. Thank you.
Could I just interject? This is the third time now that Director Lamb's reported on Mexico. And frankly, I don't feel it. Is this a portfolio of the council?
I think that might be within the District of Sechelt's purview. So maybe we can question their mayor when it comes to her turn. But yes, and thank you, Director Lamb, for flagging the transit piece, because that is definitely, it's one of those things that if the District of Sechelt does get with all of the because the funding has already come through. It's just been recently announced, and congratulations on that. And so that's definitely something we'll have to be looking at going forward, is extending that. And next time you go to Mexico, we can always tag along and give you company down there. So I'm sure Bev won't mind either. So next on the list, our director from Area D, Roberts Creek, Mr. Andreas Ties, please.
Thank you, Chair. I don't have a whole lot to report. I I attended along with some other directors, the Long Services Awards here, and I want to commend those staff members that have been here for a long time, and I think Heather Skite tops the list at 30 years. That was pretty impressive, and so I just wanted to give a mention to that. The water dialogues, I thought went very well, and I think that was a well-organized event, put together in a very short amount of time. Really commendable what staff, Remco's team, and Impact Resolutions put together. So thank you for that. And yeah, other than that, it was an interesting OCP committee meeting the other day. We're all learning about the new amendments that came in last September, a year ago, about affordable housing and what that means, and how we're going to move forward in Roberts Creek regarding those amendments. And so we're continuing to learn, all of us. So that's my comment on that one, and I'll move on from there.
Thank you, Director Ties. We'll move over to my immediate right and Director Seeger. So tell us your version of what's going on in Sechelt and why Director Lamb gets to go down to Mexico so much.
Well, I get to go down in January. I'm not going to mention some of the things that others have mentioned. I have a long list of events that have happened over the last couple of weeks. One that hasn't been mentioned is the Lieutenant Governor, Janet Austin's visit to the coast. And I think she touched base with most of the governments here. In Sechelt, she actually attended the All That We Are show at the Art Center, which is the Pride Art Festival. So that was quite interesting. You mentioned Skookumchuck Squadron Armed Ceremonial Review, I believe. I've also been to a Sunshine Coast Homelessness Advisory Committee meeting and a Community Action Team meeting. A couple of things have come up there. As you've noticed, we have more homeless around the coast, particularly in Sechelt, although they're showing up other places. So we're looking at where they're coming from and what we do to assist them and keep the rest of our community safe. And I know it's been a conversation with the Sechelt Nation as well. The CAT team, their year is coming up for the end of their year funding, and they're looking to apply next week for funding for another year. They're looking for a lead sponsor for that, somebody to actually be the funding sponsor for that. REBGV, Real Estate Board of Greater Vancouver. So one of the things that happened last week was Chair Pratt and Andrew Allen from planning here, I and Tracy Corbett from the District of Sechelt, and Emmanuel Machado and Leanne from Gibson's did a presentation to, and the Sechelt Nation had their people there too, did a presentation to the real estate group on the Sunshine Coast here about what's happening in each of the municipalities with regards to planning. Very informative. Some pretty basic stuff. I know our planner did a debrief with us after and said she really liked what Leslie Ann did in Gibson's, where she came with a map of Gibson's and then showed where all the developments were on there. Really gave so she's made notes for the next person to do that. What else? Iced tea you mentioned, yes. And I guess when we flew back, we were flying in and there was an RCMP cruiser there with the lights flashing. And I knew that it was, the Cops for Cancer kind of thing or whatever, the fundraiser thing. So these two here on the plane with me said, oh, they're here for you. And sure enough, I get off the plane. They say, Mayor Seegers, we'd like to arrest you, and they're laughing. And then another cruiser pulls in with the lights flashing, and they say, and now we have arrest warrants for Lori Pratt and Bill Beamish. So they got another car. But the fellow who took me, he drove down Cowrie, would put on his siren, and then said, Mayor Seegers has been arrested. And people are laughing on the sides of the road as they're driving down. It was a lot of fun. Great fundraiser. And I'm doing it again next weekend for something else. What else? So that was the RCMP fundraising. Director Lamb mentioned the $1 million that we received towards the airport. We also received another grant in the District of Sechelt. We already had on our capital project list upgrading trail from Toreto partway up the hill. And at the beginning of this year, the provincial government indicated there was funding available for bike trails, bike paths, etc. So we applied, and we received $575,000 towards a $730,000 project. The upgrades now will go from Toreto on trail all the way to Kinnickinnick Park. So it'll be a multi-year project, but it will have the road, separated bike paths, and separated walking paths beside that for that whole route. So that'll give us a good spine to start building others out. The Urban Interface Workshop was on Monday night. Very good workshop. And further information will be coming out. That was videotaped by Coast Cable, and the Community Forest will make sure it's available so people can watch it who didn't get there. This coming Monday, there's an active transportation summit down in New Westminster. I've been invited to be on a panel on the Monday, and what's kind of exciting about that is there will be an announcement about funding that's going to be coming from the province, from Minister Trevena on Monday afternoon. So we'll see what that is and what we can bring back here. One final thing I'll mention with the District of Sechelt committees. We have set up 4 committees, and they're being advertised now for members of the public to join in. One is on housing, where we're looking at addressing the housing spectrum in Sechelt. We're looking at water, to do with our water resource center, as well as water conservation, harbor, and airport. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Director McMahon, how are things in Elphinstone?
Things are warm and dry in Elphinstone, like everywhere else. I have a quote. A friend sent me a quote, and something Director Lee said earlier made me think that he would enjoy it. The quote was, "I used to wish that my computer was as easy to use as my telephone. Well, I got my wish. I don't know how to use my telephone anymore." So, active transportation month, my final tally was 330 kilometers by bike, which is 4 times back in to Egmont and back. That's twice. Ferry to ferry twice. And 135 kilometers by bus. Actually, I think all of us found that there were some challenges, and it is definitely challenging trying to use the bus around here. When you're attending meetings at irregular times, it's actually easier to cycle. I really liked the switch from doing Bike to Work Week to doing Active Transportation Month, and I hope that TRAC does that again next year, because I thought it was much more inclusive and a lot more fun. And thank you to all the other directors for participating. I brought the chocolates that I won, and I'm sharing them around. Other things I've been at, I attended the CAP University Envisioning session on May 27th. I went to the Farmers Institute meeting on May 28th at Roberts Creek Hall. Silas White was there and was talking to farmers about water, which was good. I attended, as others did, the Staff Service Awards on May 29th, and I don't know about the quotes, but I was impressed by the presentations by supervisors to the staff members. They were interesting. They were thoughtful. Really nice. On May 31st, I met the Lieutenant Governor at the town of Gibsons, and nice reception there. On June the 1st, I attended the Pride kickoff event at Persephone. That was great. I went to 2 of the water dialogues, Monday in Sechelt and Wednesday in Gibsons. I got a lot of good feedback from residents, particularly about Remco's presentation and Lori's speech, which was nice. Last Friday, I met with residents about the future of the Reed Road Forest. They're getting fairly organized about this, which would be nice because we would like to be in a more proactive position rather than a reactive position. Saturday, I went to Oceans Day and also dropped by the Home and Garden Show, which was a big zoo as usual. On Sunday, I took day one of Streamkeepers training at Malcolm Creek in Roberts Creek. That's a very interesting program. It was a whole lot more involved than I realized, and there's a whole lot of science. But we did a lot of things. We measured the temperature of the stream, and we looked under magnifying glasses to see what little bugs were in the water and all kinds of stuff. And Malcolm Creek, it turns out, is a very healthy little creek. A fisheries officer came the day before and set traps overnight and caught 14 cutthroat trout in that creek, both above and below the culvert. So I mean, they were little trout, but they're there. So that creek appears to be groundwater fed, because it's cool and it's running fairly well, where a lot of other creeks and rivers are very, very low this spring. So that was nice, and hopefully at the end of this training process, I'm back out there wading around this coming Sunday. There will be a group forming to be the Streamkeepers for Malcolm Creek, and I'd like to see a lot of other groups form for other creeks on the coast, and talk about how we can enable that and perhaps make the program a little smoother for volunteers. Monday, thanks to a calendar mix-up at the town of Gibsons, I was the only elected person at the Pride flag raising at the town of Gibsons, but that was fun. Got to represent the political bodies of the coast. Yeah, I also attended the library board. I don't remember what I did Tuesday. It gets a bit crazy after a while. And last night I was at the Elphinstone Community Association. That's their last meeting until the fall, but they are throwing a party, a neighborhood party, on Saturday, July 13th from 4 to 9 p.m. at Chester House, and all the other directors are cordially invited to come by. Yep. I think that's it.
Terrific. Thank you, Director McMahon. I have a bit of a lengthy report because I have a lengthy update from my trip to the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, but I'll just start with a few of the things that I've been doing, which of course dovetail with some of the other ones that everybody else has been doing. Sechelt Library Board meeting. It's an energetic board. They're doing a lot of surveys out right now in the community. So you may see library volunteers hounding you for a survey. It's just so they can try and be better at the services that they are providing and find out what the community wants. Then the water consultations. I was really, really pleased with the attendance, the candid comments and questions from the audience. Thank you so much to staff for arranging it all. It was a lot of work in a very short time period, and thank you very much for taking that on. And it was handled very well, and I'm getting a lot of very positive comments, which is really great. And the videos are up online on our website now, as well as the slides from Remco's presentation and the speech I delivered on behalf of the board. So that's all online, and looking forward to seeing the report when it comes out. June 5th, had a lovely breakfast with the Mayor of Sechelt and the Chief of the Sechelt Nation, along with a couple of councillors, Councillor Julius and Councillor Paul, and that was a great chance to connect informally. did the realtors talk with Andrew, and it's interesting being on the other side and knowing what kind of questions that they're thinking of asking, and then they were very quiet. So there you go. The iced tea meeting on the 7th was great. The return, not so much. It's real handcuffs in the back of a real cop car is quite interesting, and for some reason I ended up staying because I was committed to raising all of my bail, and then I got set at $750. Mayor of Gibson's had $500, but he did give me money on the way out, and so did the mayor of Sechelt, but she was set at $750. I raised $1,000. So per capita? Okay, well, per capita, I guess. Well, Oceans Day, I attended Oceans Day on the 8th, and then went down for the forum, the Students' Forum down at Elphinstone Secondary. Those are really great events. And then, of course, next week, Director Beamish has already mentioned the Eastlink celebration at 11 o'clock at Elphinstone Secondary, and then also the Navy League of Canada's annual inspection. I'll be there as well because I also help volunteer with them, and so I'm looking forward to that. So that'll be at 1 o'clock at the Gibson's Legion. And then next week on Tuesday, the Sechelt Chamber of Commerce is hosting breakfast with the chair of the SCRD. And so if you can sign up for that with through their website. And then that evening, Director Seegers and I will be, I'll be chairing the public hearing on the short-term rental bylaw, the public hearing on that. So that'll be interesting. We're looking forward to a good turnout for that. So I'll go on to my report from the Federation of Canadian Municipalities meeting that was held in Quebec City the 29th of May to the 2nd of June. And it was a pretty amazing experience to see. It was the largest meeting they've had ever. They had 2,100 elected delegates from across Canada. 357 of those were from BC alone, so got to see a lot of familiar faces. It's some interesting statistics. 8 to 10 cents out of every tax dollar is spent by local government, and it's interesting when you look at that. 8 to 10 cents of every tax dollar goes to local government, yet we have more and more, I'm sorry, this is the soapbox part of the day, more and more federal and provincial government programs are being downloaded onto municipalities and local government. So I think it's important to keep that in mind, especially going into a federal election. And another interesting, 60% of Canadian communities have 5 staff or less. So that's an interesting statistic. So 60% of Canadian communities have 5 staff or less. So it tells you the size of the communities that we have across Canada. No. Shh. So a couple of the sessions I attended, there was a lot of talk about climate change and mitigating climate change in communities, and there's some really interesting things I'd like to delve into further with the board on the higher level side, talking about life cycle assessments of as we're looking to procure new projects, and what we're looking at when we do procure new projects, procuring lower emission. 50 to 60% of all building materials purchased in Canada are purchased by a government of some level. So that's incredible. So when we're purchasing, we need to really be thinking about the full life cycle cost, not just the cost, but the GHG emission cost, and looking at the lowest carbon footprint and the best available solutions at that time. And we really need to think about building it once, building it right, and building it to last. And looking at the whole picture as more of an energy efficiency and using science and data to make our changes to policy. Looking at everything through a climate lens, GHG emission, and climate change mitigation, and making it part of our procurement process. So Tina, I think there might be a couple of amendments coming to that, or conversations anyways. That was that's just from one workshop that was put on by the Concrete Association of Canada. And one of the things they were saying is that it is possible to get lower GHG concrete that's made with a certain amount of recycled materials. It's just it's not being asked for. And so these are the kinds of things that we need to be looking at putting in our procurement policies. One of the most interesting sessions I attended was actually kind of like a grassroots group of elected folk from across our country. And it started, kind of as a Facebook group and connecting with one another. And they call themselves the Climate Caucus. And what we did is we discussed what was going on within our jurisdictions, what we had, big wins or what problems we were most dealing with and what we can advocate most during the federal election. And during last year's heat waves, there's one jurisdiction that a politician was there, and she said, we lost 74 people due to heat last year. And so these are the kind of issues, like there's extreme flooding going on in some areas, and goes from flooding to tornadoes, and so there's some sad things that are going on around the country, and things that people are doing, and we can delve into those things later. A more upbeat on rural revitalization, looking at farming, connecting farmers with community, economic development, and looking at business retention and expansion, especially after disasters, which was actually upbeat. So. And then, of course, talking in another workshop was talking about plastics and looking at the local solutions to the global challenge, because we're all faced with these issues. And 16% of worldwide oil use is used to manufacture plastics. And it's estimated that by 2050, there's actually going to be more plastic than fish in the ocean. 14% of worldwide plastics are recycled, and 11% of Canadian plastics are recycled. It's a very linear economy, and we need to look at ways of making it circular, and looking at our regulations, closing the loops, stopping our disposal, and using. There was really a call out for the elected people to use our areas of influence to set the example and be an ambassador for getting rid of single-use plastics. So just a lot of really good food for thought. And then one of the biggest plastic items found during the last ocean cleanup, cigarette butts. They have plastic fibers in them, and as soon as they have a plastic fiber in them, they're there forever. But they're found across our beaches. They're found in our oceans, and it's something the City of Vancouver is really looking at as they go through their plastics ban this upcoming year and the year after, and looking at how they can collect cigarette butts or encourage collection, whether it be by a deposit or looking at it's one of those things it's always there. And if you think about, how many years there's been plastic filters on cigarette butts, and then multiply that by the number of people that smoke, and they're there. I am happy to say, though, the entire time I was in Quebec City and on the way there, I did use public transit, and which is interesting when you only have your high school French on your side. Because everything in Quebec is in French, all of the signs and all of that. So it was a really good experience, but there was no public transit from the airport to the hotels. So you had to take an Uber or a taxi. So just as a little plug for Director Lamb earlier in talking about transit up to the airport, it's something that when you get off an airplane and you're looking around and you're trying to figure out on your app, okay, well, what do I do now? And it's like, oh, well, I'm either walking a really long way or I'm going to the taxi stand. So I went to the taxi stand. Anyway, so that's my report. I'll be bringing forward more, and I'm happy to discuss offline with anyone more the experiences, but it was a really valuable conference, and it was in a gorgeous area of Quebec City, and it was really valuable. So I had a really good time. So with that, that's our director's report. We have no new business today. I'm looking around, seeing none. And we will be going in camera, so I'm going to ask for a motion to go in camera, and then we will ask for questions. So if we can move that the public be excluded from attendance at the meeting in accordance with Section 91A, C, I, and K of the Community Charter, personal information about an identifiable individual, labor relations or other employee relations, the receipt of advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, and negotiations and related discussions respecting the proposed provision of a municipal service. So moved and seconded. Seconded? Okay. And all those in favor? Motion carries. Questions from